I smoothed down my simple black dress as I approached the gleaming entrance of the Monarch, Manhattan's most exclusive residential building. Through the glass doors, I could see my family gathering in the marble lobby for my sister Rebecca's engagement party. The security guard, Marcus according to his nameplate, stepped forward as I reached for the door. "Service entrance around back, please." Of course. My sister had obviously instructed security about her embarrassing younger sibling who worked in property management. "Can't have the help using the main entrance." "I'm actually a guest," I said quietly. "Catherine Parker? For the engagement party." Marcus checked his tablet. "Yes, Miss Parker. Service entrance only as requested by the host." As requested by my own family. I bit back a smile thinking of the meeting scheduled for an hour from now. "All right. Around back then." He pointed to the side alley. I nodded, turning away from the pristine lobby where I could see Rebecca holding court in her designer dress, our parents beaming beside her. The service elevator was cramped and smelled faintly of cleaning supplies. As it creaked upward toward the penthouse level, I thought about the building inspection report sitting in my office. The Monarch needed major renovations, repairs that the current owners had been putting off for years. That's why they'd finally agreed to sell. And why Parker Properties had swooped in with an offer they couldn't refuse. But my family didn't know that. They didn't know that their unsuccessful daughter had built one of the city's fastest-growing real estate investment firms. They were too busy celebrating Rebecca's engagement to James Winchester III, heir to the Winchester real estate fortune. The irony wasn't lost on me. The service elevator opened directly into the kitchen, where catering staff bustled around with trays of hors d'oeuvres. A few gave me sympathetic looks. They'd clearly been warned about the black sheep of the Parker family. I slipped through the kitchen doors into the main party space. The penthouse's floor-to-ceiling windows offered stunning views of Central Park, though I already knew that from the property photos. "Katie." My mother's voice carried across the room, though she didn't move to greet me. "You came through the kitchen?" "Really?" "Hello, Mother." I kissed her cheek. Security's instructions. She at least had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. While Rebecca was concerned about appearances. "You understand." "Of course." I checked my watch. 45 minutes until the announcement. Rebecca floated over, champagne in hand. "Oh good, you found your way up. James was just telling everyone about Winchester's latest acquisition. They've bought 3 buildings this quarter." "How nice," I murmured, accepting a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. "That's what real estate success looks like," our father chimed in, joining the conversation. "Not that you'd know managing that little building in Queens." If they only knew that little building had been my first test property, the starting point of an empire now worth billions. But they'd never bothered to ask. "Speaking of real estate," Rebecca continued, "James says the Monarch just sold. Some mysterious buyer swooped in. Probably one of those investment firms with more money than taste." I took a sip of champagne to hide my smile. "Really? How interesting." "Darling," Rebecca called out, waving to James Winchester III as he approached. "Tell Katie about the mystery buyer. She works in property management, you know." "Well, sort of." James straightened his tie importantly. "Father says it's some upstart firm. Parker Properties or something similar. No real pedigree." My phone buzzed. A text from my assistant. "Building manager ready for announcement in 30 minutes. "No pedigree at all," I agreed softly, watching my family's familiar looks of condescension. The party continued around me, a swirl of wealthy guests congratulating the perfect couple, while I stood quietly by the windows, watching the sun set over Central Park. My park view, though they didn't know it yet. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served through the main entrance. Sometimes it comes up the service elevator. The engagement party was in full swing when the building manager, Mr. Thompson, stepped into the penthouse. I watched him scan the room, his eyes finding me by the windows. He gave a slight nod, right on schedule. "Attention everyone," he called out, tapping a spoon against his glass. "If I could have a moment of your time." The crowd quieted. Rebecca frowned. This wasn't part of her carefully planned evening. "As many of you know, the Monarch has recently been acquired," Mr. Thompson continued. "I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce our new owner, who happens to be here tonight." My mother leaned toward Rebecca. "James, Darling, is this your father's doing? James shook his head, looking confused. No, father's bid was rejected weeks ago. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Catherine Parker of Parker Properties. Mr. Thompson gestured in my direction. The new owner of the Monarch. The silence that followed was absolute. Rebecca's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor. My father's face had gone completely white. There must be some mistake, James stammered. Winchester Real Estate was outbid, I finished for him, stepping forward. Parker Properties offered cash with guaranteed residency for all current tenants during renovations. Katie. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. What is this? I turned to face my family, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. This is business, Mother. Parker Properties owns 37 buildings in Manhattan alone. The Monarch is our newest acquisition. 37 buildings? Rebecca's voice had risen an octave. But you manage that building in Queens. Actually, I corrected her gently, I own that building in Queens. Along with the entire block. It was my first purchase 7 years ago. Mr. Thompson stepped forward with a folder. Ms. Parker, the final paperwork needs your signature. And we should discuss the renovation schedule. The service elevator needs to be replaced first, I said, accepting the folder. No one should have to use it in its current condition. My father found his voice at last. All this time, while you thought I was failing, I supplied. Yes. I was building something. Something bigger than anyone realized. James was frantically typing on his phone, no doubt looking up Parker Properties. I could pinpoint the exact moment he found our portfolio value. Billions, he choked out. Parker Properties is worth billions. Rebecca sank into a nearby chair. My sister owns the Monarch? And the building you're planning to move into after the wedding, I added. The Wellington on Park Avenue? Parker Properties acquired it last month. The party guests were whispering among themselves now, phones out, looking up my company. The perfect engagement party had transformed into something else entirely. Why didn't you tell us? My mother asked, tears in her eyes. All these years. You never asked, I said simply. You were too busy being embarrassed by my career choices to actually understand them. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. Miss Parker, about the renovations. Yes, of course. I turned to address the room. The Monarch will be undergoing extensive renovations starting next month. Don't worry. All residents will be temporarily relocated to other Parker Properties buildings. At our expense, naturally. Rebecca stood up shakily. And us. Our penthouse. I smiled, remembering all the times they'd made me use service entrances, all the condescending comments about my little job. Oh, don't worry, sister dear. I've arranged for you and James to have the penthouse at the Wellington. Consider it my engagement gift. But that's our building's most expensive unit, James protested weakly. Yes, I agreed. It is. The room had grown uncomfortably warm with unspoken realizations. My family stood frozen, their perfect worldview shattered by the truth they'd been too blind to see. Now, I said, turning back to Mr. Thompson, shall we discuss those elevators? The party dissolved into chaos after my revelation. Guests huddled in corners, whispering and Googling Parker Properties on their phones. Rebecca sat shell-shocked on a leather chaise, while James paced nervously, making frantic calls to his father. I stood with Mr. Thompson by the windows, reviewing renovation plans when my father approached. Katie, he said softly, using my childhood nickname for the first time in years. Could we speak privately? I nodded to Mr. Thompson, who discreetly stepped away. Of course, Dad. We walked to the terrace, the New York skyline glittering before us. So many of those lights shone from buildings I owned, though he was only just realizing that. I remember when you bought that Queens building. He started. We all thought you were making a terrible mistake. Your mother cried for days. I remember, I said quietly. You told everyone I was throwing my life away. He leaned against the railing, suddenly looking older. That building in Queens, how much is it worth now? After renovations and neighborhood development? About 40 times what I paid for it. He let out a long breath. And that was just the beginning. That was just the beginning, I confirmed. Every property I bought, every building I transformed, They all started with that terrible mistake in Queens. Inside, I could see my mother dabbing at her eyes while Rebecca stared blankly into space. The perfect family portrait had cracked, revealing something real underneath. The service entrance, Dad said suddenly. Today when they made you. It's being replaced next month, I cut in. Along with all the other overdue repairs that Winchester Real Estate wasn't willing to fund. James, who had been hovering nearby, flinched at that. Catherine, he stepped forward, his usual confidence gone. About the Wellington penthouse. The papers are already drawn up, I said. Unless you and Rebecca would prefer a different property. No, that is we. He stumbled over his words. Thank you. Rebecca finally stood up, walking unsteadily toward us. All those charity galas, those social events where we made you use the back entrance. You owned half the buildings we were in, my mother finished, joining us on the terrace. Oh, Katie. Not half, I corrected gently. But enough. The city stretched out below us, a maze of lights and possibilities. My family stood silent, processing the weight of their assumptions, the years of dismissal and condescension. The Parker name, my father said quietly. You kept it for the company. I did. I turned to face them fully. Because despite everything, I am a Parker. I just redefined what that means. Rebecca stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. I've been horrible to you. All these years looking down on you when you were building something, I finished for her. Something lasting. And now you own the building where I'm having my engagement party, she laughed weakly. God, the irony. I own a lot of buildings, Beck. But that's not what matters. I took her hand. What matters is what we do with the opportunities we're given. My mother touched my arm hesitantly. The renovation plans. Would you show them to us? Help us understand what you've built. I smiled, remembering all the family dinners where they'd ignored my attempts to talk about work. I'd like that. Mr. Thompson appeared at the terrace door. Miss Parker? The contractors are here for the final walkthrough. Send them up, I nodded. And Marcus from security too. I'd like to discuss the entrance policies. My family had the grace to look embarrassed at that. Katie, my father said, about the service entrance. Is being replaced, I finished. Along with a lot of other things that need to change. As my contractors filed in through the main entrance. Not the service elevator. I watched my family's faces. The shock was fading, replaced by something that looked like respect. Would you like to join the walkthrough? Asked them. See what Parker Properties is really about. They nodded, following me as I began the tour. With each detail I shared, each vision I explained, I could see understanding dawn in their eyes. The daughter they'd dismissed had built an empire right under their noses. Sometimes the greatest success isn't in proving others wrong. It's in proving yourself right. And sometimes the best way up isn't through the service elevator at all. It's through the front door you own.